Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Mike Kollin at MikeKollin.com. So, I thought it'd be important to talk about faith because we are going through a shift right now. There's definitely a change happening. So, a while back I made a video, it was probably about 3 weeks ago, and I said I feel like there's just a shift, like something's happening, and it was kind of an overwhelming feeling. I kind of cried just a little bit. Because I think it's, how do I say this? Okay, so there's still people on the planet that it's weird to me, because I would say 20 years ago, 30 years ago, yeah, okay. But there's still people on the planet that they're not noticing anything. And then there's people who are definitely aware enough and tuned in enough to notice like the energy shifting, like there's a lightness, like there's a shift from light, or maybe even a separation from light and dark. So here's part of a subject that I don't think I've ever mentioned. There's a lot. Okay, I realized in the last couple of weeks, I've realized there's a lot of things that I'm aware of that I don't share on this channel. It's not that I'm not sharing it, it's just that there's other subjects that I've been bringing up. Alright, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to kind of spit it out and kind of clarify as I go along as best I can. So at this point in time, if we can use that word, there's a separation happening, and you're going to have to understand. Okay, so this is the part that makes me cry. So there's going to be a shift, okay? And I'm just going to spit it out. The best way to say it is like this. It's like, for the people whose energy has been lightening up, has been moving forward, whose awareness has been expanding, and you're really tuned into the shift and noticing that, just even noticing that, like there's, like, it's like some people are just very dark. Even let's just say condensed energy, where some people, they just, their energy is nicer. You can flow around them, like their energy is more open and more flowing, like just anything like that. It's not like that's the only thing, but there's a bunch of different shifts and differences that people are becoming very, very aware of. So I'm sure you guys have heard over the last 2, 3, 4 years how like there's going to be a new earth and an old earth, or however you want to say that, and there's going to be a shift, there's going to be a separation. Well, I think we're really, really close to that right now. So to be really blunt with you, and sorry, I'm having a hard time spitting this out, I'm just going to say it's going to be kind of rough, is some people are going to make it. Some people are going to go to the new earth, the new level, call it whatever you want to call it. And essentially people that are noticing the differences in everything, in the energy, etc., those are the ones that essentially are moving forward. And the rest, well, they're not. And I don't believe that they're going to be on an old earth. I think it's like that earth, if we can call it that, it's going to be destroyed. The two-dimensional way of thinking, the either or, right or wrong, the rule-oriented perfectionist, that mentality is going. It has to go. I mean, that's, look at just, it's not just Jesus, though. You can go to other spiritual teachings. It's everywhere. But because I was raised Christian, this is where I learned it from and understood it. The whole purpose of Jesus dying on the cross and everything he taught before that was to to launch us into the next level, next dimension, the new earth, whatever you want to call it. So everything that he taught and prepared us for is what's happening right now. Alright, so think of it like this. Think of it as density. So the first dimension is very dense. The second dimension, it's pretty dense too. Even the third dimension, where you have length, width, and height, like trees going up, okay, versus a flat surface. Now we have dimension, alright? That is still a very, it's a fairly, very dense dimension. It's funny, I have crows outside, and it's about almost 9 o'clock, and they are just, they've never done this before. It's kind of interesting. So it's about 20 minutes before 9 p.m. The sun's just gone over the horizon. Alright, so I actually went out on my porch, and the one of the black, I believe it's black crow raven, was literally right off on a tree branch right off my balcony. So I had a little chat with her. It's funny, while I was talking to her, she didn't move at all. She turned around and looked at me, and I talked a little bit, and then I went back inside, and she flew away. Alright, so let's get back to what's going on. So essentially, the density of people that are, here's what it is. Okay, so the older densities are heavy. And as you become more spiritual, or you become enlightened, you literally become lighter. You feel lighter, you think lighter, just life in general becomes lighter. You just become lighter when people are rude or mean, or or say stuff. You just kind of like, you lighten up. Okay, I've got it. Okay, so over the decades, I've always taught, especially men, that the male left brain is the two-dimensional brain. It's the brain that wants to grab on. It wants to control everything. That's the scientific method. Like literally when you use a microscope and you put everything on that little two pieces of glass and you slide it under the microscope, and like the environment has to be perfect. They call it a controlled environment. So what I'll tell most men is it's like driving a car. You're grabbing onto the steering wheel and you're controlling it physically. And so I would tell men, like for women, that really kind of freaks them out when you're controlling, like you're staring in their eyes and you're locking on, and like you have to let go of all of that. Okay, you have to learn how to let go, because it's much more comfortable. It's enjoyable to be around. And that is the shift. So for those who are moving forward, as people who have learned how to let go, at least this is part of the faith part. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to be in this total blissed out, enlightened state 24/7, okay? And I'm going to lead into that part a little bit later. In other words, it's not about perfection, like a perfect state of bliss. It's an ebb and flow. It's like a wave coming in and a wave going out. A wave crashes in and then a wave goes back. It's just going with the flow, going with the direction. So the old way was like controlling everything: brakes, gas, steering wheel, grabbing, pushing, pulling. In fact, that's the male energies, the push and pull energy, okay? Now the other energy is really about being neutral. It's about just allowing. It's opening up is probably a phrase I should use first. It's like you're just letting go, and that allows you to open up. So when you open up, now you can receive. Now as we move on into this next dimension, that's what it's going to be all about. It's not about controlling. It's not about this big 2-ton, 3-ton car on the ground being pulled down by this density of gravity on this dense cement road. Everything is dense, okay, in the old way. Now we're shifting and we're coming out of that. Think of it as, it's almost as if we're flying now. Like we're gonna lighten up and we're gonna kind of float up. So on this level, it's not imagine of grabbing things. It's imagine of letting go of things. And that allows you to drift and flow into the direction that you want to go. It's kind of like, how to explain this? All right, I got it. Instead of going against the tide, instead of going against the flow of the river, you're going to go with it because it's guiding you in a direction. Whereas before, it was all about fighting everything and going against the tide, going against the river. So the whole male energy of push, 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 control, force, I mean, that's male energy. It's push energy and it's forceful energy. That's done. That's in the past. So for those people who are literally clinging onto that, holding onto it, like literally with their mental energy, the physical energy, they're not going to be going forward. Because no longer is it about the strongest person dominates and controls and defeats the other person. It's going to be more about energy harmonizing. Okay, like music, it's going to be harmonizing. So instead of like chaotic or corroding energy, which I've mentioned, narcissists have like this corrosion. It's like a battery that's corroding. Their energy is just scattered, staticky, like that. That's gonna go. They're not moving on. It's just not going to happen for them. See, the either or mentality caused a lot of people to do a lot of sneaky, underhanded, I don't know what you call it, they're lying, essentially. Lying, manipulating, being trickery. All that stuff's going out the window. Because, okay, haven't you noticed that you're starting to see this in narcissists? Like, you can just see it now. You look at it like, wow, like it's really obvious to us now. But the funny thing is, it's not obvious to them at all. They still think that they're being sneaky when like you could literally look right at them. And this is exactly what I did. There's two people, and it's actually more than a lot more. But I would specifically go, look, I know exactly what you're doing, and I would point at A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and they'd no, I'm not. No, I'm like, dude, you're literally doing it like right now. And they would just kind of grin and smile. No, I'm not. I'm like, oh, okay. And they would really believe that you couldn't see it, even though you were telling them. That's how oblivious they are. So, because of the either-or mentality, it causes a tremendous amount of suffering. It is why suffering exists. So, we're moving on from that is what's happening. So, when I was growing up, I was surrounded by lakes and rivers, and also living in California, also surrounded by oceans. So, I've been in the ocean, I've body surfed, I've boogie boarded, all that stuff, and we've took tubes down rivers and creeks and even swam down them, and like you learn how to go with the water. Like okay, I got a perfect example. Body surfing, perfect example. Probably surfing too. Now I haven't surfed a lot, but I have surfed. But body surfing is like you start swimming as the wave's coming towards you, and you go up and up and up, and then you go with the wave, and that thing can push you 200, 300 yards or more. I mean, you just go. And I remember the first time I did it, because I remember watching a friend of mine who did it before I did it. He did it for weeks, and I didn't understand. I couldn't do it, and he was so excited, like, oh my God, it's incredible. And I didn't get the big deal. My other friend was excited because he could do it too. And I remember the first time I did it, I was like, oh my God. I mean, to this day, if I go to Santa Cruz, by the way, Santa Cruz is the best beach for body surfing in the world. I'm not kidding. It is, like, legitimately. So when you can catch a wave like that, you just go with it, and all you're doing, here's the difference. Before, you were the one who was doing the power, the push energy, like you were having to make the force energy, whereas now you're not doing that. You're just going with the energy, and it's literally like a balancing act, because when you body surf, you've got to kind of catch it just right, and you got to maintain this angle and this balance, and to keep going with the wave. And if you do it right, it is exhilarating. To this day, I mean, even in my 50s, if I do it today, I will get just as excited as the first time I did it when I was around 12 or 13 years old. And I've never once been bit by a shark. I think that's just an old wives' tale or myth or something. I've swam with the sharks, though. Seriously, I really have. So, we were moving into a world where it's not about control anymore. It's not about forcing or making things happen. It's a matter of creating with the energy. So two-dimensional energy is going out and taking action and doing and saying things, and like, okay, I've got to say it this way. So the way men do things is they believe they have to go do something. Like they constantly got to be doing something. That's very left brain male energy, okay? Whereas the internal energy is like, no, you just sit like the planet Earth here. And essentially the weight of just sitting there bends, call it, I'm not big on these words, but space-time continuum. And what happens is it draws stuff into you. It brings whatever it is you want to you. All right, so this concept for most men is like, well, what am I supposed to do? I'm like, nothing, just sit there. And I'm like, what? So I teach men how to ground themselves emotionally, like really learn how to energetically ground yourself and then just do nothing. And they're like, well, what am I supposed to be doing? I'm like, nothing, just ground yourself and just be in the present moment. Because it literally will draw women to you because it's very grounded, it's stationary, it's calming, it's comforting, and it's essentially, I know it sounds funny, but it's very similar to what we would say bending the space-time continuum, just by being there, by allowing your weight to just sit. So I'm kind of tired right now, so I don't have the right words, but if I remember right, this is basically Einstein's theory of, oh God, I just lost it. His theory of, I'm going to use this right now, it's probably not the right phrase, but space-time continuum, like how does everything, is it gravitation? And they're saying, no, it's actually something that kind of bends down due to the weight, like pulling it down, okay? And that will bring things to you. So in a dating or relationship perspective, it allows your wife to feel comfortable coming towards you, okay? It's much more natural, okay? So this is what we're shifting into right now. This is essentially what manifestation is going to be all about. Or I should say, this is what it is all about. And this is the faith part that I was leading up to. See, even this meme, I love that I don't care anymore, not in a hurtful way, but in a peaceful way. It's a peaceful, allowing, and letting go way. Because before, you were clinging to it, you were grabbing onto it and holding on. You wanted that person to come back and apologize and make it right and say, I'm sorry, what I did was wrong. Because you thought, well, maybe that'll make you feel better. And you realize, like, no, it won't. So you finally just let go. And these are the people that are going to move forward onto the next, I'm going to call it the next level. Okay, so let's just talk about what I've talked about for the last 7, maybe even the full 20 minutes. These are very, very abstract concepts. And people that are very left brain, that want everything to be in detail and structured and have to be taught in a very specific Western way and, has to have this construct. they do not like my videos. And every now and then I'll get a concept, oh, you're all over the place. Ah. See, that's the thing. People that are very left brain, it has to be step 1, step 2, step 3. Now, I admit, I don't go step 1, step 2. That's a linear fashion, meaning it goes in a straight line. That's the left brain. It is a straight line external processor, just like the old IBM processors. Very narrow, very linear, and very straightforward. My videos are what we call right brain. It's an internal circular expanding processor, literally. So we'll hit one point, then the second, then the third, the fourth, and as we come back around, we'll go back over the first point, and then the second and the third, and as we go back around, we do it again, but we're constantly expanding on the learnings. Alright, so this monk is essentially been saying what I've been saying for the last couple of years. Okay, so his name is pronounced Shehung Yi, and he's a Shaolin master. He's the head, I like to say monk, but I don't know if that's his actual title, but he's the head person at the European temple or temples, so I think of all of them. So he says the ones that are able to see the signs and are able to go with what's happening, to adapt to the changes that this world is bringing us, they are the ones that are going to move on to the new world. And he says the other people that are unwilling, unable, or incapable of going with the change, they will stay with the old world, which is about to end. And then he says, that's the message. That's what this is all about. All of it. And this is why it's kind of hard for me to say this. He goes on to say an old era is about to come to an end, and a new era is about to begin. He mentions how it's not only happening outside in the outer world, but it's also happening inside us. And this is what the Bible's talking about, the separation at the very end, where you're going to separate the wheat from the tares. The tares are going to be gathered up and tied up, and they're going to be burned. And that's what he's saying in a different way. It's like, hey, the old earth, those people that are going to stay there, it's going to come to an end. Like, it's literally like the movies where, the end of the earth happens, instead of an asteroid, or the sun does whatever. That's what he's saying. That's what the Bible is saying when, they're going to separate the wheat from the tares and they're going to burn them up. Because the old way has to go. It is painful. It is mean. It's not good. Do you know why you were brought into your narcissist life, especially the last 4 or 5 years, 3, 4, 5 years? It was your job to save them. Now, I didn't say that quite right, because it's not like you're going to get punished because you failed, because you actually didn't fail. You did everything exactly right. It was them that, now here's the deal, on some level, they became very aware of why you were here. You were here to show them, like, hey man, it's time, this is your last chance. That's what, I should have said it this way. You were their last and final chance to get their shit together. And they made a conscious choice. It wasn't unconscious. It wasn't and here's the deal. They didn't just make it one time. It was over and over while they were dealing with you. And they were just like, no. And they had every chance in the world to learn how to be loving, to learn how to let go, to learn how to be compassionate and understand. And they're just like, nope, I'm not doing that. And God's like, well, all right, your choice. Your job, let go and go with the flow. Just move on. All right, the final piece about faith. So I don't want you to think that, oh, Michael must be this just holier than thou, faithful person and pure faith and always believing. No, even to this day, I still have my challenges. I still have moments, days, even weeks where I don't have faith, where it's like you feel at times where you feel disconnected, like something's not right, or you don't feel connected to God. So I don't want you to think like, oh, he's just God, he's so far ahead of me. I'm not far ahead of you. If you've been following this channel for any length of time, for 2-3 weeks, 2-3 months or longer, trust me, you're already there. Faith is not a destination. It's a constant ebb and flow. It comes and it goes, and you can develop it more, and by going through these challenges you do begin to develop more faith more often, and it does begin to become stronger and stronger. But there's never this sense of, boom, I'm just faith, boom, I'm pure. That's not. You breathe in and you breathe out. It comes and it goes, and that's okay. And that is the faith. It's when you can just finally realize it was never about being perfect in any way. It wasn't like being, in a state of faith 100% of the time, 24/7, 365 days. Like when you finally are okay, here it is. When you're finally okay with not being okay, when you're finally okay with not being in a completely blissed out, faithful state, like I know God's going to answer my prayers, when you're finally okay with not being okay and not being in a state of faith, that's faith. So there's one more message I want to add to all of this. It's like the energy is rising, it's shifting, it's becoming more. So the better you learn how to ground yourself, now you can direct that energy better. It's like, instead of it being this chaotic energy, like, okay, now all of a sudden you're angry and you take that energy and you hurt someone, or you're in a bad mood and you do something bad. It's like being more and more emotionally grounded, so now you can direct that energy to begin to create your life. And once again, it's all about being okay with not always being grounded at every single moment of the day. That's faith. Perfection is not, N-O-T, is not faith. Allowing, letting go, and coming from the perspective of the bigger picture, that is faith. See, perfection is reverting back to the two-dimensional way of being, of grabbing and controlling and pushing and pulling and trying to make it happen, trying to force it. That's not faith. Like, okay, so the grounding techniques help you to physically and experientially understand this a lot better. Because on the one hand, yeah, you can be practicing a martial art and learning how to do the techniques perfect, but then there comes a phase where you do it naturally without thinking, without making it happen, and it happens a lot better. So it's like being in the flow state where, man, it's almost like, okay, let's go back to the boogie board or body surfing. So you just allow the gravity of the earth and the momentum of the wave to hold you in place, and all you do is kind of balance it, working with it. Okay, so instead of you trying to hold on to the earth or hold on to the gravity, you allow it to hold you, and then you go with the flow. And the thing I don't think I mentioned before is now you can turn left and turn right, or go a little higher on the wave, a little bit lower, and you can guide and steer from that way of being. Alright guys, that's it for this video. If you do want to learn how to do grounding techniques and how to become more emotionally grounded, I do that one-on-one coaching. You can get a hold of me. Go to let's see, if you want to email me, go to mike@mikekollin.com. Probably the best way, just message me. Or you can call me. This is a landline. I do have a cell phone that I like to talk on this one, but you have to call, leave a message. It's 415-747-8598. Alright guys, that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next video. If you did like this video, go ahead and click subscribe, click the like button, and make a comment. And if you want, You can make a donation. There's a PayPal link right there in the description box below the video. God bless you guys. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.